Hi friends, I will share a success story with you today. The story name is The Man Who Refused to Sell His Soul. The Sylvester Stallone story. Imagine having $106 in your bank account. You're living in a drafty, condemned apartment in New York City. The windows are painted shut to keep the cold out. Your wife is pregnant. Your dog, the only creature that truly loves you, is hungry. And you are a failure. At least, that's what the world told Sylvester Stallone for the first 30 years of his life. Sly wasn't born with a silver spoon. In fact, due to complications during his birth, a pair of forceps severed a nerve in his cheek, leaving the left side of his face paralyzed. It gave him that trademark snarl and the slurred speech we all know today. But in the 1970s, that wasn't a trademark. It was a disability. Acting coaches told him he looked like a caveman and sounded like he had a mouth full of marbles. He went to over 1,500 auditions. He was rejected 1,500 times. Not 10, not 100, 1,500. He would sit in casting offices for hours, refusing to leave until they saw him. They would call the police. They would laugh. They told him to go drive a truck. By 1975, the bottom didn't just drop out. It disappeared. He was so broke he had to steal his wife's jewelry to sell it. But the lowest point, the moment that would haunt him forever, came when he walked to a local liquor store with his dog, Butkus. He couldn't afford to feed the dog anymore. He stood outside the store and sold his best friend to a stranger for $25. He walked away crying. He had officially lost everything. 2 weeks later, Stallone is sitting in a cheap theater watching a boxing match. It's the legendary Muhammad Ali against a nobody named Chuck Wepner. Everyone expected Wepner to be knocked out in the first round. He was a bleeder, a journeyman. But something miraculous happened. Wepner stayed standing. He took hit after hit. In the 9th round, he actually knocked Ali down. The crowd went insane. Wepner lost eventually, but he proved he could go the distance. Stallone walked home, his brain on fire. He sat down at his rickety table and started typing. He didn't eat. He didn't sleep. In a fever dream of 84 hours, he wrote the script for Rocky. It wasn't just a boxing movie. It was his life. It was a story about a guy who just wanted to prove he wasn't another bum from the neighborhood. He took the script to producers. Most hated it. But then he hit a spark. Irwin Winkler and Robert Chartoff loved it. They offered him $25,000 for the script. Remember, Stallone has $106. He's starving. $25,000 is a fortune, but Stallone said, "There's one condition. I have to play Rocky." The producers laughed. You're a writer. We want a star. We want Robert Redford or Jimmy Caan. We'll give you $100,000 to walk away. Stallone said no. They offered $250,000. He said no. Finally, they offered $360,000, the equivalent of over $1.5 million today. All he had to do was sign the paper and walk away. He would be rich. His wife would be happy. He could buy back his dog. But Stallone knew. He knew that if he sold that script and watched someone else play his life, he would hate himself forever. He chose to stay poor to keep his dream. The producers finally caved. They gave him a measly $35,000 for the script and a tiny budget of $1 million to make the movie. But there was a catch. If the movie went over budget, Stallone would be personally liable. The first thing Stallone did with his $35,000, he went back to that liquor store. He waited for 3 days for the man who bought his dog. When the man showed up, Stallone offered him $100 to get Butkus back. The man said no. Stallone offered $500. The man said no. Eventually, Stallone had to pay $15,000 and give the man a part in the movie just to get his dog back. But he didn't care. The team was back together. The filming was a nightmare. They couldn't afford trailers. Stallone's brother played a street singer because they couldn't afford a choir. They didn't have a permit for the Philadelphia Art Museum steps. They just jumped out of a van. Stallone ran up the stairs, and they drove away before the cops came. Stallone was literally punching frozen meat in a slaughterhouse until his knuckles leveled off. He was broken, bruised, and exhausted. On the last day of filming, they realized they had made a huge mistake. The poster for the final fight showed Rocky wearing red trunks with a white stripe, but the actual trunks they made were white with a red stripe. They didn't have the money to fix it. Stallone looked at the mistake and realized it was perfect. He wrote a scene on the spot where Rocky points out the mistake to the promoter, who dismisses him. It added to the underdog theme. The world didn't even care enough to get his pants right. Rocky premiered in 1976. Nobody expected anything. It was a small movie. But as the credits rolled, the audience didn't just clap. They stood up and cheered. They cried. At the 1977 Academy Awards, this caveman with the slurred speech stood on stage as Rocky won Best Picture, beating out masterpieces like Taxi Driver and All the President's Men. Why does this story matter to you? Because we all have a $360,000 offer in our lives. We all have a moment where it would be easier to sell out, to take the safe job, to let someone else lead, to listen to the 1,500 people who told us no. Stallone's success wasn't the Oscar. It wasn't the millions of dollars that followed. His success happened the moment he said no to the $360,000 while his stomach was growling from hunger. He bet on himself when the odds were zero. You don't need the world to believe in you. You just need to refuse to sell the script of your life to anyone else. Go the distance.